Recording has started. I welcome everybody to tonight's session. My name is Taye Abidakun, the convener of Tech in the UK and the CEO of Medilary.com. Over the years, we've trained developers, hundreds of developers, and just last year alone, we trained developers across four continents from this program, Tech in the UK. So if you want to learn programming, this is the best place to do. I want to believe that you've downloaded the books sent to your mail. I want to believe that you've downloaded the books sent. Two books were sent to your email address, the ones you used for the registration. I want to believe we all have those two ebooks sent to us. Now, we teach programming in a way that even if you are a dummy, you will understand whatever we teach you. We assume you know nothing before joining. So we teach with that mindset, with the mindset that our students know nothing. Now let's go to today's program. We are going to learn about 1 week free training on web development. Please let everybody mute Israel mic. Please let's also mute our mic. So we are going to run about 1 week free training on web development. We run a series of programs. We run programs on DevOps, web development, mobile app development, data science, artificial intelligence, database administration. We run programs on different ICT courses. And this is just one out of the numerous courses that we teach students. Having said that, in today's class, we are going to discuss what web development is about. Then we are going to write some sets of codes. Now let's discuss what web development is. Web development is the process of developing a web application. The next is, what are web applications? Web applications or web development is the heart of developing web pages. Web pages are pages that run on the web browser. Examples of web browsers are Opera Mini, Google Chrome, Firefox, Safari. We have a lot of web browsers. So web development is the art or the process of developing pages that run on a web browser. Now, a web application, or a typical web application, has about 3 parts. It has 3 parts. The first part is the client side or the front end. Then we have the server side, which is the second part. And we have the database. So we have 3 parts. We have the front end, the client side, which is the front end, also known as client side. We have the server side, and we have the database. So the server side and the database, they are known as the back end. So in summary, we have the front end and the back end. The back end now has 2 parts, the server and the database. Do we have any questions so far? If you have any question, you can raise up your hand. Okay, I'm giving us this theoretical background so that when we go to the practical part of it, you understand things the more. So let's pick these sides one after the other. The client side, also known as the front end. The client side, also known as the front end. That is the part of a web application that you interact with. The client side is the part of a web application that you interact with, that you relate with. So, please let's all mute our mic. So the client side is the part of a web application that you interact with, that you see, that you relate with. For instance, if you go to Facebook.com. The client side is the part that you can see. Let's visit a website together. I will present my screen. So let's visit a website together. I hope you can all see my screen.
Yeah.
Okay, so this part that we can see on the screen is the client side of this application, is the front end of this application. This is the front end. This login from everything you see on the screen is still at the front end. If I create an account or if I try to sign up, everything I'm saying is still at the front end of the application. So the front end is that part that you can see and relate with. So next is, let's assume I want to sign up on this application. I'll fill my information here, my details. When I'm done, I'll click on sign up. Now, after you do that, some processings will go on at the background. Some things will happen at the background. So those things that go on at the background is known as it's being done on the server. That's the server side. Remember, I said our application is divided into three parts: the front end, the server, and the database. So the front end is the part that users can see and relate to it. The server is the part that does the processing. It's like the brain of your application. It does the processing. Then we have the database. The database is where your information is stored. For instance, after filling all this form and I click on sign up, my information will be stored somewhere. That place where it is stored is known as database. Now let's use a more practical example so that we can relate with it much better. According to the textbook I wrote and the one I sent to us, I used an example there and I think it's a very good example. If you get to an eatery or a restaurant, let's say I go to a restaurant now, the part of the restaurant that I can see, that is the front end. But the food I'm going to eat will be prepared in the kitchen. The food that you will eat will be prepared in the kitchen, even though you will not be served in the kitchen. So that kitchen that does the processing of the food, the cooking of the food, is known as the server, is the one doing the processing. But even the foods in the kitchen, they are being taken from the store, like the foods are taken from the store to the kitchen for processing, then to the serving area. So that kitchen is the server where the processing is being done. The place where you visit, where you eat, where you relate with the restaurant is the front end. And the store that stores the whole food. Whenever it's time to eat or it's time to cook, whenever it's time to cook, they go to the store and fetch part of the food. They fetch part of the food. So the store is the database that stores all information. So at any point in time, you go to the database and take part of it, not everything now. Most times you don't take all of it. You take the information that you need per time and you take it to the server to process it. So let's go back to this website. If I register here, my information will be stored in the database. And likewise, the thousands of people that are registered on this website, the information of everybody is stored in the database. But whenever I try to log in, I will only supply my own information, but not the information of other people. So the database now supplies or sends a little part of the data that is just my own details. It sends it to the server. The database sends just part of it to the server. The server, better way to look at it is the server goes to the database and fetches just the information it needs per time. That is, in this case, it's going to fetch my login details. Now, after then, it brings it to the front end. It brings whatever needs to be brought to the front end to the front end. I hope you understand how this thing works. The front end is the part the users see and interact with. The server is the part that does the processing. And the database is where your information is being stored. Having said this, in this training, we are going to focus on the front end. So, at the front end, we have three major tools that we use at the front end. We have HTML. I will write them out. HTML. HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So we are going to look at these two. These three tools are needed at the front end of your web application. HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Let's discuss the importance of each of these. The first is HTML. The HTML gives us the structure of a web app, the structure, the layout. Look at it as the foundation of a web application. The CSS gives us the design. It beautifies our web app. It beautifies it. While the JavaScript is the brain behind the front end. The front end is not just a dummy, or without the JavaScript, the front end would have been a dummy page, a page that does not interact with the users, a page that does not think, a page that processes nothing. But with JavaScript now, our front end can now become interactive. Our front end now becomes intelligent, so to say. It's not just a dummy page now. So let's discuss these things. Yes.
Yeah, sorry. Come again with that. The Java, the one you talked about just now, the Java stuff.
Okay, the JavaScript is the one that makes our front end to be interactive. Let me give an instance.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Let me give an instance. Let's go back to our restaurant analogy. I explained to us that when you enter a restaurant, the part that you can see, the structure, the layout, everything you can see is the front end. That's the client side. Now, at that front end, we have, there is a section where you have the tables and chairs. There will be a section where you order for your food. There will be a section where you make payments. All those layouts, all those sections by sections, they are the HTML. They are the structure of that restaurant. The structure, that is, this section is for feeding, is for eating. This section is for you to order your food. This section is where you go out from. Like, this section is the entry point. This section is the exit point. All these sections, they are the structure of that restaurant. In other words, they are like the HTML of that restaurant. Any question on that? Now, let's discuss the CSS part of it. The CSS is the design of that restaurant, how beautiful it is. The CSS beautifies your page. The CSS beautifies your page. Now, the JavaScript, the CSS talks about the color of the restaurant, the beauty of the restaurant, how beautiful it is. But let's talk about the JavaScript now. Remember I said the JavaScript its main function is to make your website to be interactive. Now, imagine you have a restaurant and there's nobody to attend to you. Then you are going to feel somehow, right? You just like a restaurant with nobody to attend to you. No, no. In fact, if you want, there is a place to order food, but nobody there. Nothing, no matching, nothing there to relate with you. Then you will feel bored, and in fact, it's like a just like a hall. A restaurant with nobody to attend to you and all of that. It's just like a hall. So when you when you interact with the waiter, the waiter in this case is the JavaScript. The person that serves you food is the JavaScript. It adds functionality to that restaurant. It allows you to be able to relate with that restaurant. Without those people, when it's time to make payments, you interact with someone. The person you are interacting with is the JavaScript. So the JavaScript aims to add functionalities like the brain of the front end. Hope you understand the difference between the three now, or the difference between HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. HTML is the structure, CSS is the design, JavaScript is the functionality of your web page. Any question before we proceed?
Does JavaScript help makes work dynamic too?
Yes, it makes your page dynamic. Okay. Any other question? Now let's move on. We are going to start with HTML tonight. HTML. In fact, within this 1 week free training, we are going to focus on HTML. So let's discuss HTML. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. Now, to write HTML code, you need something we call code editor. We are coming back to that code editor. What is a code editor and all of that? Let's go to the syntax of HTML. In HTML, we use what we call tags. HTML has what we call tags, HTML tags. A typical tag in HTML is like combination. Let's discuss it. Let's relate it with English language. When we look at it from the aspect of English language, it becomes easier to understand. HTML has two things: a verb and a subject. HTML has two things: a verb and a subject. A verb is an action word, right? Right? Are we together? Michael, you raised your hand. You can ask your question. Hello, Michael, you have the floor. Okay. Akongbe Oluwagbamila. You can go ahead.
Yes, sir. Please, the full meaning of HTML once again, sir.
Hypertext markup.
The full meaning of HTML once again, sir.
Hypertext markup language. This is
Okay,
hypertext markup language.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Before we proceed, sir.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes, I'm with you. I'm with you.
I want to ask, what are the requirements to get a
Requirements to.
what are the tools that we need to use?
Yeah, we are going to discuss the tools in the course of today's class. In fact, that's one of those things we are going to do tonight. We are going to talk about the installation and everything you need to get started. But we want to first have an idea of what HTML is about, then we round it off by discussing the tools. Then we continue tomorrow. So let's discuss what HTML is about. HTML, if you consider HTML, or if you try to explain it with concept of English language, we can say HTML is made up of two things: a verb and a subject. A verb and a subject. You know, in English language, a subject, it obeys the verb. We are trying to use the verb, or in English language, we use the verb to give an action or a command to the subject. HTML comprises of what we can call a verb and a subject. So let's look at what that means. It means HTML will look like this. Let's say John run. So I'm telling John to run, because HTML contains just two things: a verb. This one is the verb. This John is the subject. So I'm telling John to run. John, run. Something like this. Let's look at another one. I can say Tolu, sit. Tuti, jump. This is how HTML looks like. A subject and a verb. So this verb is like you are giving a command to these subjects. So let's write this in the concept of HTML. These HTML verbs, they are not just called verbs, they are known as tags. These verbs parts, they are known as tags. So you use tags to give a command to a subject. So don't call it verb, call it tag. So use a tag to give a command to a subject, a tag to give a command to a subject, a tag to give a command to a subject. Let's move on. Now, tags in HTML, they are written in pairs. They are written in pairs. In English language, tags are just written, verbs are written once. But in HTML, tags are written in pairs. Or the verbs, HTML verbs, I think that's better. HTML verbs, they are written in pairs. The pairs are known as opening tag and closing tag. Let's discuss them. If this were to be HTML, then it would have been, we are going to write it like this: John, this one, you know, this is the verb part, right? This is the verb part. Please, let's mute our mic. Okay. So these verb parts, they are written in pairs. These tags are written in pairs: opening tag and closing tag. So instead of writing run, it means I'm going to write this one in pairs. I'm going to write it twice. Run. Are we following? This sit will be written twice. Tolu, sit. Titi, jump. This is how we write HTML. We are still taking it step by step. Now, one of these verb will be the opening tag, the other will be the closing tag. Again, one of these will be this first one will be the opening tag, the other will be the closing tag. This will be the opening tag, this one will be the closing tag. So, in summary, whenever you want to write HTML verbs or HTML tags, you write them twice. You repeat the tag. You write it twice. So one will stand for the opening tag, the other will stand for the closing tag. So let's complete it. There is a way you write the opening tag. Whenever it's time to write the opening tag, because you need to differentiate the opening tag from the closing tag, you need to differentiate the opening tag from the closing tag. So the way to write the opening tag is to put the less than sign before it and the greater than sign after it. So let's write this seat using the opening tag, the less than sign before it and the greater than sign after it. Same with this, the less than sign before it and the greater than sign after it. So this is how you write the opening tag. When HTML sees it, it knows that, oh, this is the opening tag. So let me quickly summarize what we've discussed so far. A web application is divided into two parts, the front end and the back end. The back end is divided into two parts, the server and the database. So the front end is the part that users can see. The server is where your information is being processed. The database is where your information is stored. Now back to the front end. The front end has three important parts: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. The HTML represents the layout of your web page. The CSS represents the design. It's used to design your web page. And JavaScript is used to add functionalities to your web page. So to the HTML. HTML has two very important parts: a verb and a subject. A verb and a subject. Use the verb to give a command to the subject. A verb to give a command to the subject. A verb to give a command to the subject. Now, these verbs, they are known as tags. They are known as tags. And you write the tags twice. So, in English language, we would have written it like this, while in HTML, we are going to write it twice. You repeat the verb like this. You repeat it like this. Run, run, sit, sit, jump, jump. This is for English. This is for HTML. Now, the reason why you're writing it twice is because one of them will represent the opening tag, while the other will represent the closing tag. Again, you are writing this sit twice because one of them will represent the opening tag, the other will represent the closing tag. You are writing this jump twice because one of them will be the opening tag, while the other will be the closing tag. Let's now just talk about the opening and the closing tag. For the opening tag, you put a less than sign before it and a greater than sign after it. Same with this, you put a less than sign before it and a greater than sign after it. Same with this, a less than sign before it and a greater than sign after it. Any questions so far? I hope you are following.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on. Okay. Let's move on. Now to the closing tag. The closing tag looks like the opening tag. Let's repeat the opening tag. It looks like it. It looks like the opening tag with an exception. It has, or with an addition, it has a backward slash after it like this. It has a backward slash. So this backward slash make our, differentiate the opening tag from the closing tag. When it sees a backward slash, it knows that, oh, this is the closing tag. The one that doesn't have a backward slash is the opening tag, while the one that has a backward slash is the closing tag. So this is how to write a verb in HTML. So let me clear everything and do something. Let's say it's in English language we are going to write it like this. In HTML you write it like this. Oh yeah, you write it like this. In English language you are going to write run like this. In HTML, you write run like this. In English language, you are going to write sleep like this. In HTML, you write sleep like this. Any questions so far? So, remember I said we have two parts. We've only dealt with the verb part. Let's now go to the subject part. The subject is meant to obey the action of the verb. Okay, let's unmute our mic. Yeah, okay, I want to ask a question.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Are you saying directly or indirectly that in HTML that both the opening and the closing tag must be used together?
Yes, you use the two together.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Okay, let's go to the subject part. In English language, we use a verb to command a subject or to give an action to a subject. For instance, this one can be, let's say, Shade eats, Joseph run. Then this can be Taye sleep. This is English language. In HTML, the subjects should be placed between the opening tag and the closing tag. So in HTML, we're going to write this like this. So what we are doing is that I'm commanding Shade to eat, I'm commanding Joseph to run, I'm commanding Taye to sleep. So this in English language and this in HTML, they mean the same thing. This is English language, this is HTML. This is English language, this is HTML. You can see how simple these things are, right? Let's proceed. Now, we want to look at something we call HTML attributes. Today's class is to introduce us to what HTML is, and we install the necessary tools needed. After today's class, starting from tomorrow, we will start writing HTML codes. Tomorrow we're going to create our first file together and we'll put some codes inside it. HTML attributes. Attributes are characteristics of tags. Attributes, they are characteristics of tags. Let me explain this better. In this case, I'm telling Joseph to run, but I'm not specifying the speed. I'm not telling Joseph the speed at which I want him to run. Now, attributes make tag to be more specific. So I can now say, Joseph, I want you to run at a particular speed. I can say speed. Then I can now put the speed. Maybe I want him to run at, let's say, 10 meters per, let's say, minute. Attributes, they are written in name value pair, the name of the attribute and the value of the attribute. So what I'm just saying is, attributes make tags to be more specific. Initially, we asked Joseph to run, but we didn't specify the speed. Now, I'm being specific. I'm telling Joseph to run at this speed. The attributes, note that they are written inside the opening tag. Attributes are written inside opening tag before this greater than sign. Can you see this greater than sign? Before it. That's where you put your attributes. So attributes are written inside the opening tag. Maybe this it. I want Shade to eat using maybe the cutlery I want it to be spoon. So I want the cutlery to be spoon. Initially I asked Shade to eat, but I didn't specify any cutlery. So meaning initially Shade could have eaten with hand, with spoon, with fork, with anything, with knife or anything. But now I'm being specific. I'm instructing Shade to eat with spoon. Here I asked Taye to sleep. Now I can be more specific. Maybe I want, okay, sleep with your coverlets. So I can say yes. So whenever you want to sleep, make sure you put on your coverlets. So I'm being specific now. Or I can also go on and say, okay, sleep on the mattress. So I can say material. Okay, let's even put this mat. So I'm instructing Taye to sleep on the mat. If this is mattress, Then I'm instructing Taye to sleep on the mattress. So I'm being more specific. Attributes allow us to be more specific. You are now being specific. You are giving more definition, more characteristics to your tags. Any question? Let's proceed. Let's look at the common mistake people make while writing HTML codes so that you can avoid them. Imagine a scenario. Let's say I have 6 students. I have Taye, Kenny, Idowu, Peter, James, and John. So we have these 6 students. If we want all of them to sleep, all I need to do is say sleep sleep. Note something. Let me break it to the next line so that it becomes clearer. Do you notice that everything here, they are inside the sleep tag, right? They are inside the sleep tag. What I'm just saying is, I'm saying everybody here should sleep. But let's assume I place the sleep here. Then I'm only instructing Taye, Kenny, Idowu, and Peter alone to sleep. That will not affect James and John. Because this sleep, I'm closing it after Peter. Because we are closing it after Peter, it means only Taye, Kenny, Idowu, and Peter will sleep. James and John will not sleep. Let's assume I put the opening tag here. Let's assume, okay, let's put it here. Look at the location of the opening tag. In this case, only Idowu and Peter are within this opening and closing tag. Then it means only Idowu and Peter will sleep. Taye, Kenny, James, and John will not sleep. They will not sleep. Only Idowu and Peter will sleep. Any question? Are we following it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's move on. So only these two will sleep, not everybody. Next is this. Now, some people might mistakenly write 2 opening tags instead of a opening and a closing tag. It's a common mistake. You might mistakenly write 2 opening tags. This is an opening tag and this is another opening tag. So in this case, we have 2 opening tags. So what happens is this. In this case, when you have 2 opening tags, what happens is that when you open sleep here, everything inside this place will sleep. Then here you are opening another sleep. That means everything after this will also sleep. Meaning Idowu, Peter, James, and John will sleep. Do you understand? You know what we actually want to do is we only want Idowu and Peter to sleep. So normally you ought to close this. Normally you ought to close this like this. But let's assume you mistakenly write it this way. Just assume we made this mistake. Then Idowu, Peter, James, and John, all of them, everybody will sleep. All of them. If there's another person here, let's say I have God will also sleep. All of them will keep sleeping. That's because we are yet to close it. Until we close it, it's not going to stop. When you open a tag, it will keep affecting everything after it until you close it. So once it sees a closing tag, then it will stop. Let's look at another common mistake. So please, whenever you open a tag, don't forget to close the same tag. Don't forget, you have to close it. The closing tag tells it where to stop. The opening tag tells it where to start. This is the starting point and this is the stopping point. Stop here. Let's look at another common mistake in HTML. Another common mistake is that whenever you are using two tags, yes, it's possible. Let's assume I want Taye and Kenny to sleep. I also want them to eat, meaning I want them to obey two commands. I want Taye and Kenny to sleep. I also want them to eat. So I can write that like this. So I want them to sleep. Then I also want them to eat. So I can write that like this. So in this case, I'm saying Taye and Kenny should sleep and eat. But what I have here is an error. The thing is this. Here we opened sleep and here we opened eat. Here we closed sleep and here we closed eat. It looked fine on the surface, but it's not fine. We follow a principle. The principle is that first opened, last closed. When you open a tag, the one you opened first must be the last one you will close. The one you opened first must be the last one you will close. So in this case, we opened sleep first. Then it must be the last one we will close. So this should be like this instead. I'm coming. So this should be like this instead. The first to open is the last to be closed. So this is the right way to write it. So whenever you are writing multiple tags, keep that in mind. The first to be opened must be the last to be closed. And a good way, this is called nested tags. Nested tags. So whenever you are using nested tags, note first opened, last closed. And to make it even easier to read, you can indent it like this. So I'm indenting it. This becomes easier to read. So anybody that sees this code now immediately knows that, oh, this it is within this sleep. Anybody that sees knows that this it's like is inside this sleep. So this becomes cleaner and easier to read. Any question?
Sir,
Okay.
how do you specify which one they should do first between the eat and sleep? Is it the first sleep that we open first that they will do first, or the eat that follow it that they will do first?
They will do the inner one first because it's closer to them. This will be done first, then followed by this.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, not to take our time, we are going to be stopping here tonight and continue by at this same time tomorrow. That's 9 p.m. tomorrow. But before we go, let's talk about the necessary things you need to install. You need two things. Number one, a place to write your codes and a place to run your codes. Again, we need two things. A place to write your codes and a place to run your codes. So let's discuss these two things. So where you write your code is known as a code editor. Where you run your code is a web browser. So you write your codes inside a code editor, or you write HTML codes in a code editor. Then you run HTML codes on a web browser. So example of web browsers, we have Chrome, Opera Mini. You can download any of these. Safari, Firefox. Any of them is fine. But well, I will advise Chrome and Firefox or any other one, but then I at least have any of these two. Chrome, Firefox. Now let's go to code editor. For code editor, you can download Sublime Text. I'll go to their website now and we'll try to download it together. We can download Visual Studio Code. That's the one I'm currently using. Visual Studio Code. You can download Atom. There are many of them, or Notepad+. There are many code editors that you can download. So let's download. But I think let's discuss. Let's go to the website of Sublime Text and Visual Studio Code. So I would say just Google Sublime Text download. Sublime Text download. Click on it. Then you can, okay. Oh wow, they released Sublime Text 4. That was good. Then pick your OS operating system. Select out of your OS. Then download from there. So you can download any of them. I will send the link to the group. Download. I think this one should automatically detect your OS. Yes. So select your OS, then download from there. It's fine. You can also. Do you have any question?
What about those of us without a laptop or system yet?
Okay. Yeah, you can't use this phone. It's not going to work on phone. But there are some apps that you can use. Handwriter is one of them. I will send it to us on our WhatsApp group. I want to believe everybody here is on our WhatsApp group. So I'll send it to us there. You can also download Visual Studio Code. And that's what we are going to be using. I think in that textbook I wrote how to download Sublime Text. I used Sublime Text in that textbook, but for this training we're going to be using Visual Studio Code. So go to the website, choose your operating system and download it from there. Download and install. So please let's do that before tomorrow. Any question before we go? Okay, I can wait.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Ask a question.
Yes, sir. Please, can you make the recap again? Like my data got exhausted. I just logged in.
Okay, we'll do.
Like about or what we have to download.
Okay, about what? Okay, now we have two things. We need two things. Number one, we need a code editor. Please let's meet our mic. So we need two things. Number one, we need a code editor, and number two, we need a web browser. For web browser, you can download any of these. Then for code editor, I gave examples of this: Sublime Text, Visual Studio Code. You don't need all of them. You only need one of them. You only need one of them, not all of them. Now, for Sublime Text, if you want to download Sublime Text, you can check the textbook I sent to us. The procedure is there, or just go to Google and just Google Sublime Text download. Then go to their website and download it. Also, I will send the link to us on WhatsApp. When you get to their website, pick your operating system and download it. Then for Visual Studio Code, that's the second one. Yeah, Visual Studio Code. Go to your browser. Sorry. Okay. Now go to your browser, Google Visual Studio for download. Then download the one you want. Choose your operating system and install. After installation, run it and start using it. So by tomorrow, I expect every one of us to have downloaded any of the two, either Sublime Text or Visual Studio Code. Question before we go. We are going to join tomorrow's class using the same link. Amzat Mujib, raise up your hand. Amzat, Mujib, you can ask your question.
Hello?
Yes, I'm with you.
Please, can you tell us the limitations of the HTML?
Limitation.
Yes.
You can't use it for styling. I explained some things that HTML is to handle the layout of your page. So it has a specific purpose, and you only use it for its purpose. JavaScript is to handle the logic. CSS is to handle the styling.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other question before we go? So I'll send the recordings to us on the group. So thank you very much. I expect us to come early tomorrow till we complete our class.
Sir,
Yes, sir.
sir,
Ah, welcome,
I
sir.
heard that you are talking about code editor or something like that.
Yes.
Can we use Notepad?
Yes, you can use Notepad. Yes, you can. You can. But the issue is that we make the work a bit slow. Okay, let me use that opportunity to explain the difference between code editor and IDE. IDE as code editor. So code editor helps you to write codes. IDE does more than that. In fact, IDE actually has code editor inside it. It does more than just writing code. It helps to debug, it helps to complete, it helps to do a lot, even to test. No, what I asked us to download, they are actually IDEs. Visual Studio Code, Atom, they are IDEs. So Notepad is just a code editor, and along the line, it's going to make your work slow, like because it doesn't have IntelliSense and all of those things. So we need something that will make our work much faster. So you can download what's called Notepad, but the work will be a bit slow. How we advise that you download either Sublime Text, Visual Studio Code, Atom. You are going to spend more time writing codes on Notepad, or except if you are using the Notepad++. I think there is Notepad++. So that one is much better. Any other question?
Okay, sir. With short explanation, what you mean is that code editor will make IDE make code easier to use than only editor.
Yes, and
Code
just
editor.
code editors, yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome, sir. Any other question?
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
Hello, sir.
Yes, I can hear you,
Oh,
sir.
please, can we please all those up on our own, like you said?
Can you?
No. Can we operate? Like, can we write it using our Android phones?
Yes, you can write this.
Or we
using
have to
right.
get
Yes, you can write it on your Android phone, but not with these tools. Not with these tools. You need to download some apps on Play Store, that sort of thing. But then I strongly advise that you do this on your PC instead. It makes your work better, and it's frustrating writing codes on phone. Let me be sincere with us. It's frustrating writing codes on phone. So I will advise that you pick your system, your laptop or desktop, and you write it there. But anyway, it's not that it's impossible, but just that it's frustrating, it's more stressful. Any other question?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, in absence of questions, thank you very much for coming. Have a lovely night's rest. Good night.
Thank you so much. God bless you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for this great opportunity.
Thank
We are
you.
very grateful.
Thank you very much.